Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Asodanana Vadana Dandana Asodanana Vadana Dandana Yamuna Tera Vanachari Yamuna Tera Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Asodanana Vadana Dandana Asodanana Vadana Dandana Yamuna Tera Vanachari Yamuna Tera Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Asodanana Vadana Dandana Asodanana Vadana Dandana Yamuna Tera Vanachari Yamuna Tera Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, ISKCON Govinda ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Pramanandi. All glories to my devotees, all glories to my devotees, all glories to my devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10. Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions, text number 33. Ham Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ham Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ham Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Etad Bhagavato Rupam Stulam Te Vyahritam Maya Maya Dibis Chavarani Hasti Bihayavritam Etad Bhagavato Rupam Stulam Te Vyahritam Maya Maya Dibis Chavarani Asti Bihayavritam Eted Bhagavato Rupam Stulam Te Vyahritam Maya Maya Dibis Chavarani Asti Bihayavritam Hey Tat, all these Bhagavata of the personality of Godhead, Rupam, form, Stulam, gross, Te, unto you, Vyahritam, explained, Maya, by me, Mahi, the planets, Adibihi, and so on, Cha, unlimitedly, Avarane, by coverings, Astabihi, by 8, Bahi, external, Avritam, covered. Translation Vajang Grisesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Subhabhadiki. Translation, thus by all this, the external feature of the personality Godhead is covered by gross forms such as those of planets, which were explained to you by me. As explained in Bhagavad Gita 7.4, the separated material energy of the personality of Godhead is covered by 8 kinds of material coverings: earth, water, fire, air, sky, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All these emanations from the personality of Godhead as his emanations from the personality of Godhead as his external energy. These coverings are just like the coverings of clouds for the sun. The cloud is a creation of the sun, yet it actually covers the eyes so that one cannot see the sun. The sun cannot be covered by the clouds. The cloud can at utmost extend a few hundred miles in the sky, but the sun is far greater than millions of miles. So 100-mile covering is not competent to cover millions of miles. Therefore, one of the various energies of the Supreme Personality Godhead cannot, of course, cover the Lord. But these coverings are created by him to cover the eyes of the conditioned souls who want to lord it over the material nature. Actually, the conditioned souls are covered by the illusory creative cloud of matter, and the Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to their eyes. Because they have no eyes of transcendental vision, and because they cannot see the Personality Godhead, they therefore deny the existence of the Lord and the transcendental form of the Lord. The covering of the gigantic material feature is accepted by such men with a poor fund of knowledge, and how this is so is explained in the following verse. So we've heard previous verses, the manifestation of so many facets of this material energy, the different senses and the predominating deity of the senses, etc. And in a sense, this is sort of coming to a conclusion that that this is simply all the external energy of the Personality of Godhead. And but for those who don't have information of that, we're thinking that this external manifestation of the material world is all in all. I mean, basically we understand from Bhagavatam this external world, the total material cosmic manifestation is actually only 25%, 1/4 of the material and the spiritual. So in that sense it's quite insignificant. But because for those who don't have information of anything greater than this world, we're just thinking it's all in all. And from a material estimation, it is quite great. I mean, if somebody, just this one planet out of billions and billions of planets, just this one little planet Earth, if somebody drives around or rides a motorbike around or rides a push bike around, even people have walked around, it's a great achievement. It's so far, so many thousands of kilometres. But the further you get away from the whole manifestation, the smaller everything seems. And indeed we have the, well, to speak of the planet, the whole universe is compared to be one mustard seed in a bag of the whole mustards. There was the, I think it was Tamal Krishna Maharaj was speaking to Srila Prabhupada, and there was some, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was trying to, I forget the circumstances, trying to convince Prabhupada that we should do this or we should do that, or there was some issue with other devotees. I just can't remember the exact circumstances, but nevertheless there was a bit of intense debate going on with Prabhupada and Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And so Prabhupada, he gives the this explanation that of the total cosmic manifestation, the material world is simply 1/4. And within this 1/4 there is unlimited universes, and within one universe there are unlimited planets, and on one particular planet there are hundreds of countries, and those countries or continents, many, was it 7 or 8 continents, and these continents are divided into so many countries. And in one particular country there are many cities and towns, and in one particular city there are as many suburbs and streets, and then there are so many buildings, and each building has so many rooms, and in one particular room Tamal Krishna Maharaj thinks he's a very big man. So he gives that explanation. So, you know, putting we need to remember that, of course, we come to this material world because we want to lord it over and be the centre of the universe and the enjoyer. But we need to keep everything in perspective of, where we have an eternal loving relationship with Krishna, but we are only one part and parcels of so many parts and parcels. So Krishna, he recognises, he's aware and recognises anything that we do to try to please him, but nevertheless we shouldn't become too proud thinking, if I leave this situation, how will it all go on? And I don't know, Prabhupada, when he went to France for the first time, he was giving class, and he said, so Napoleon says that I and France are one. And Prabhupada said, but I am here in France and I don't see Napoleon. But somehow or other it's going on, so this is the idea that, nobody is irreplaceable. So this verse, Bhagavad Gita verse that Prabhupada quotes 7.4, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, altogether these 8 constitute my separated material energies. So Prabhupada comments in the purport that the science of God analyses the constitutional position of God and his diverse energies. So we have the material scientists who, very much engage in analysing the material elements of the world in so many different ways. And no doubt there's a lot of intelligence involved in that, very deeply analysing in so many different ways. But an honest scientist will understand there's so much more, that we can, this is just the material, and as we said, the material is only 1/4. So what about the other 3/4? Shouldn't we be, interested in analysing, studying that also? So material nature is called Prakriti, the energy of the Lord, and his different Purush incarnations. This material world is a temporary manifestation of one of the energies of the Lord. So not only is the material realm only 1/4, it's also temporary. Even though it might last for so long from a perspective of our understanding of time, nevertheless it does come to an end at some point. All the activities of the material world are directed by these 3 Vishnu expansions of Lord Krishna. Generally, one does not know the science of Krishna. Who does not know the science of Krishna assumes that this material world is for enjoyment of the living entities, and that the living entities are the Purushas, the causes, controllers and enjoyers of the material energy. So this is the disease that we have, that conditioned in the material world, we're thinking that everything is for our own enjoyment. So this is the problem that everyone is facing to one degree or another, that we want to be, and this is reason why we've come from the spiritual world to the material world, because we've developed that mentality that we want to enjoy separately from Krishna. So we're giving that facility. I mean, it's not that we're locked up, so to speak, in the spiritual world, and even for those who want to get out can't. I mean, we have free will and Krishna doesn't interfere with that. But in a sense, the material world is the jail, that we can only get out if the so-called jail keeper allows us to get out. So we have to qualify ourselves. But nevertheless, whilst we're always thinking that we're an enjoyer, but the problem is everybody else is thinking that also, so therefore there's always conflict, that everybody wants to take the resources for themselves, be the centre. Prabhupada used that example, you throw a handful of stones into a lake and there's so many ripples, bouncing into each other, everything is a bit chaotic. So that's the material world, everybody wants to be in the centre. But if we put Krishna in the centre, then everybody, and is recognised as the centre, then everything becomes much more peaceful, because everybody's recognised actually who is the centre, and that we are the servants of that personality. So basically everything within this material world is made up of these 8 different elements, and even the whole universe itself has outer shells, and each shell like a covering of earth, covering of water, fire, air, etc. And each covering, as described, is 10 times thicker than the previous one. So it's not that by our own material abilities that we can get out of the universe, this material world we're in, but it's only when the jail keeper, who's actually our well-wishing father, allows us to come out. But as I said, we need to qualify ourselves first. Just like in a jail, we can't come and go as we want. We can only come out when the jail keeper allows us, the warden allows us. And even then, it has to be because we've behaved ourselves and we've followed all the rules and etc. So, and on top of that, we understand from Bhagavatam that the material realm and the different universes, there's a personal and an impersonal aspect. In Bhagavatam 1.5.20, Narada Muni speaking to Srila Vasudev, he says, the Supreme Lord Personality Godhead is himself this cosmos, and still he is aloof from it. From him only has this cosmic manifestation emanated. In him it rests, and unto him it enters after annihilation. Prabhupada comments in the purport that for a pure devotee, the concept of Lord Krishna is both personal and impersonal. Impersonal cosmic situation is also Krishna, because it is the emanation of his energies. For example, a tree is a complete unit, whereas the leaves and the branches of the tree are emanated parts and parcels of the tree. The leaves and branches of the tree are also the tree, but the tree itself is neither the leaves nor the branches. So, to understand have a complete understanding of the total cosmic manifestation, it is very incomplete if we think that everything is impersonal, or that the universe is created as a result of like some sort of random event, Big Bang Theory, or so many different theories are out there, and that it was there was no cause for the creation, and there's no purpose for the creation. That's more or less the standard scientific understanding. It's quite depressing if we thinking of that I appeared just randomly in this world, and I've got no real cause or purpose in this world, because that's the whole universe. And so we're just eating and working, and after a while we die, and that's it. There's no wonder, depression is such epidemic proportions in this world that the standard understanding, generally speaking, is that we have no real purpose or no real goal, except to try to enjoy the senses and to put ourselves in the centre, which is everybody else is trying to do. So it's no wonder nobody can be particularly happy in this world when there's no clear guidance of what one should be doing. So this idea, the spiritual life, the ABCs of spiritual life is we are not the body, we're the spirit soul within the body. So if you ask an average person in the street, who are you? They might give their name or their occupation or their nationality or their gender, etc. But you say, okay, that's sort of, describes your identity in one sense, but who actually are you? And very few people, they might say, well, I'm the heart, or I'm the brain, or I'm the whole body, or but with higher knowledge, we know where the spirit soul within the body, and the spirit soul is eternal, material body is temporary. So therefore, to say that all these other material designations, they're either temporary or they can be changed. You know, we can change our nationality, we can change our occupation, we can change even our gender. So many things can be changed. But that spirit soul, that's eternally, the identity of ourselves as the spirit soul can never be changed. So therefore, that's actually who we are. From the purport, Prabhupada mentions that, but these coverings are created by him to cover the eyes of the conditioned souls who want to lord it over the material world. So that's the crux of this verse, basically, that we know that the material world is covered by these 8 elements, but this whole material energy is there for those who basically, in a sense, almost want to be covered. They don't want to accept Krishna as the centre, and they try to lord it over the material world. So therefore, these coverings are there to convince the person that, yes, I'm the Lord and the Master of everything. So that false ego, that hankara, develops when it comes in contact with the material modes and influences or impels us to think that we are the centre. Like we understand that in the original condition, the spirit soul is in its constitutional position, has pure love for Krishna. But when we come in contact with the material energy, and particularly the mode of passion, that pure love turns into lust. So therefore we develop all these desires to try to enjoy in the material world, and we get caught up more and more in the web of karma and desires, and just sort of deeper into passion and ignorance. So in reference to this, Bhagavatam 3.7.4 from the purport, Prabhupada comments that this cosmic universe is created by the Lord for those living entities who are carried away by the illusory thought of becoming one with him by imitation. And that's basically what everybody is trying to do. We're trying to put ourselves in the centre. Prabhupada mentions even like young children, they're playing around outside, and sometimes they'll put their feet into adult shoes and just, try to walk around. And Prabhupada says this is false ego, that I want to be big. He commented like that once, that the child wants to be big by walking in big people's shoes. So it starts very early on, this idea that, trying to be bigger or more powerful than we actually are. So the 3 modes of material nature are for the further bewilderment of the conditioned souls. The conditioned living entity, bewildered by the illusory energy, considers himself a part of the material creation due to forgetfulness of his spiritual identity, and thus he becomes entangled in material activities life after life. So this is the situation in the material world, that the influence of the material energy. Of course, I mentioned that scientists, they're trying to study just this 1/4 of the total cosmic manifestation. But even within that 1/4, there's so many different facets and energies. Like we hear that Krishna's 3 primary energies are the spiritual, the material and the marginal. Marginal being us, the jivas. But he has unlimited energies. So they're very, very restricted in what they want to, research or study. They could actually open up far greater field of science if they were allowed to be a little bit more broad-minded like that. I did hear reading something about the sun. When the sun's rays, it has something like 1,500 different frequencies of energy coming from the sun, and it was something to do with, particularly Australians have so much high rate of skin cancer, and because we all like to be out enjoying the sun at the beach, etc. But in that report, it was mentioning something like 1,500 different frequencies. So there's so much there that can be understood or developed or studied even in the material world, and as we said, it's only 1/4 of the total cosmic manifestations. So for those who are actually real scientists, they should understand, or should try to pursue like a broader understanding. Unfortunately, a lot of these scientists, the acceptance that there's some intelligence behind everything is very difficult for them to overcome that understanding. So this material world is not for the purpose of the Lord himself, but is for the conditioned souls who want to be the controllers due to misuse of the God-gifted mind independence. So when the city fathers, the town planners, they create a new city, it's not that they want to build a jail. But nevertheless, they know there's always going to be some miscreants who aren't going to follow the laws of the land. So therefore, for their safety of the law-abiding citizens and basically for their own safety, there needs to be a place, where they can be put, restricted because of their miscreant activities. So this material world is basically the same situation, that if we don't want to recognise Krishna as the centre, there's a place for you. It's called the material world, and you can try to enjoy as the supreme person, but the parameters you're given are very, very limited. And it is said that the human form of life, like every species has a particular opulence. You could look at every species and it has some special ability. So for the human form of life, it's understood that to engage in spiritual life and go back to the spiritual world, this is the special opulence or ability that we have as jivas in the human form of life. But sometimes it's said that the humans are like the apex or the highest, most advanced evolved species. To some degree, maybe you could make that argument, but if you look at other species like a flea, for instance, a flea, according to its size, if a human could jump as far as a flea could, would be able to jump over a 10-story building. And every species has its particular opulence like that. Cheetahs and jaguars, they can run so fast, and every species is has an ability far more than us ourselves. And if we got in a fight with a tiger or a wild animal, we'd be very difficult to try to survive that attack, because we don't have claws or sharp teeth or big strength. So, the human form of life is not meant for that. It's just meant for, we have the higher intelligence, but you also have free will. And the perfection of that free will is try to come closer to Krishna and utilise this human form of life for that end. Prabhupada also mentions in that purport that actually the conditioned souls are covered by the illusory creative cloud of matter, and the Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to their eyes. So often we hear people, and particularly on question and answer forums on this sort of topic, that if there is a God, why doesn't he show us? If he wants to be worshipped, why doesn't he show us? Why doesn't he reveal himself and tell us? Everybody says we should just have faith. But I don't have faith. Maybe I'd have faith if he showed himself. Like that. So you get that sort of argument. But again, if somebody was outside the Lord Mayor's office demanding the Lord Mayor come out, He's not going to. First you have to qualify yourself. You make an appointment with the secretary, and you need a valid reason. You don't just go into some politician's office. How's it going? You need some sort of reason for it, because they're busy people. And they're not just there just for the casual whims of the population. So there's a procedure how to see these people, what to speak of Krishna. Krishna, he reciprocates with our desires, and if we want to come closer to him, he helps in so many ways, but he's not going to reveal himself whimsically. Krishna is not so cheap like that. But like Prabhupada says again and again, we can see Krishna face to face, and he gives the qualification in the Brahma Samhita. He says, I worship Govinda, this primeval Lord who is Shama Sundara Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in the heart of hearts, with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. So this is the qualification. When there is love there, Krishna is so happy to reveal himself. And you see, in the battlefield of Kuru, etc., Arjuna, such an intimate devotee of Krishna, Krishna agreed to be Arjuna's charioteer for the battle. He said, I will not be fighting, I won't take either side. And he even gave away his whole army to Dhritarashtra, who couldn't believe his luck. We know the story that Duryodhana and Arjuna, they come before Krishna, and Krishna says, I won't fight, but I will take one. I'll be on one of your sides, but I won't fight. But the other side can have my army. And so, who wants to choose first? And Duryodhana, he was there. He was thinking he'd get the first choice, but Krishna said, well, when I opened my eyes, Arjuna was at my feet, and I saw him first, so he can choose. And Arjuna said, well, my lord, I'll have you. And Duryodhana couldn't believe his luck. Said, oh, what an idiot. He's chosen Krishna, who's not going to fight. And Krishna's army is so many Hokshahini, so many millions of warriors. But we know the outcome, with Arjuna, he had that pure love. And Krishna was like his menial servant in the sense, like a charioteer is like a menial servant for the Kshatriya, for the warrior. So even though on the battlefield Duryodhana had so many more soldiers, in the end he was vanquished, because Krishna, he reciprocates to the love of his devotees. So if we want to see Krishna or understand his presence within the heart, our eyes need to be tinged with that salve of love. So therefore, we know in Bhagavad Gita also, Arjuna want to see how Arjuna is manifested within this material world. So Krishna was going to show him his universal form, but Krishna, he gave Arjuna the eyes to see that. Normally we wouldn't be able to see that, but it's interesting that even like when Krishna was trying to stop the battle going on, and he was taking the role of a peacemaker, and he went to the camp of Duryodhana to try to, make some sort of peace. We don't need to have this war. But Duryodhana, in his foolishness with some of his ministers, they thought when Krishna comes, we'll capture him. And when the Pandavas see that Krishna is captured, they'll lose heart, and then we'll be able to overcome them very easily. So this is the mood of the atheists, that they just think that even Krishna, Supreme Person, is directly before them. They just can't recognize. They just can't see that. So when Krishna came and they come to forward with him with weapons, then Krishna showed at that point a universal form, like a smaller universal form, just to show his majestic opulence. That, who do you think you are? I'm the Supreme Person. Just see my manifestation. So it's mentioned there that who was the king, Duryodhana's father? Dhritarashtra. So Dhritarashtra, even though he was born blind and he didn't see anything his whole life, it's mentioned in the Mahabharata that when Krishna manifested that universal form, even Dhritarashtra saw it. So this is the perfection of life in one sense. If you only see one thing in your whole life, and that's Krishna's universal form, that's the perfection of life. It's like when Radharani appeared, her eyes was closed, and everybody thought she was blind. She was such a beautiful, baby child, baby girl, but they're a little bit sad because her eyes were closed. They thought maybe she's blind. And one time Mother Jasoda came with baby Krishna, who had been born, was a little bit older, but still crawling. And he crawled up to Radharani's crib, pulled himself up and looked at Radharani's beautiful face. And right at that point, Radharani opened her eyes. The first thing she wanted to see was Krishna's face. So everybody was so happy. Oh, look, she's not blind. So that's it. So if we only see one thing in our life, if that's Krishna, then our life is perfect. So Prabhupada goes on in the purport that because they have no eyes of transcendental vision, and because they cannot see the personality of Godhead, they therefore deny the existence of the Lord and transcendental form of the Lord. So Prabhupada condemns this idea again and again, that what is the value of our eyes? Eyes are defect, imperfect. But if you want to understand Krishna, it begins with hearing, it begins with the ears. And they say, doctors say that when one is leaving their body at the time of death, the last sense that is basically operating is the hearing. So when a devotee is, on their deathbed about to leave their body, everybody wants to be chanting, have kirtan, so that right at the moment of leaving the body, they might not be able to see or anything else, but the sense of hearing is there. So the last thing they hear at the time they're leaving is Krishna's name. So that's the perfection of leaving one's body, is hearing Krishna's name. So whether we see or hear, this is the perfection of life if we're in contact directly with Krishna in that way. So, but the proper way of seeing is sastra chakshus, and that's seeing through the eyes of sastra. So that basically hearing is far more important. Even if we do see, we might not understand what we're looking at, but if we hear the explanation, then everything becomes a bit clearer. So, some say that that Krishna doesn't exist or God doesn't exist. Some say, oh yes, he does, but he has no form, or it's like this or it's like that. If we're hearing from a perfect source, then we properly understand. But some faith has to be there, and that faith develops through spiritual practice. As we're hearing Krishna's name, serving him, taking his prasad, etc., the heart becomes purified. And then whatever we're seeing and hearing, we're doing in the proper way. We're actually seeing exactly what's there. So some faith, and that faith has to be realised faith. In Bhagavad Gita 4:40, we hear that ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in the world nor the next. So Prabhupada comments that persons, he mentions there's three particular type of people who are condemned because their lack of faith. He says persons who are almost like animals, have no faith in or knowledge of the standard revealed scriptures. So that's one type. The second one, and some, even though they have knowledge of or can cite passages from the revealed scriptures, have actually no faith in these words. So that's, when I hear that, like politicians, sometimes they present themselves as being faithful people, and when they speak, they might have, the leading religious leader with them, sort of to back up their words that, yes, see, I'm a faithful person, like that. We see with Putin, he has the head of the Orthodox Church, backing up everything he says to try to, win the will of the people. But we know it's just a bit of a sham, but nevertheless he's doing that. So this is the type of person they have no knowledge of, but they might be able to cite passages, but they have no faith in the words. And then the third type, and even others may have faith in scriptures, they do not believe in or worship the personality of Godhead. So that's a little bit better. They have a little bit of faith, but they're unable to accept the personal feature of God. So Prabhupada concludes that such persons cannot have any standing in Krishna consciousness. They fall down. Out of all the above mentioned persons, those who have no faith are always doubtful, and make no progress at all. So some sort of faith has to be there, and the more we hear, the stronger the faith becomes. So it goes from theoretical to realised faith. Or Gana to Vigan, from theoretical to properly realised. So, persons, we might be speaking to a person, they say, well, you're talking about Bhagavad Gita, this is just a book, this is just blind faith, etc., etc. But if you deeply realise and you have some sort of experience, Krishna is reciprocating, and devotees have that all the time. Krishna is reciprocating, we're worshipping the deities, and a lot of, particularly Christians, some Christian groups, they like to criticise that you're just worshipping idols, and they quote different passages from the Bible, etc. But, we've all heard stories where these deities have appeared in people's dreams, speaking to them. I mean, an idol or just a lump of stone or marble doesn't do that. There's actually personalities. I use the example, there's one Mayapur Brahmachari, Rasa Vigraha, who's in Perth, and he told me twice the deities have appeared to him and spoke to him. There was large neemwood deities, Gaunitai, quite big, and he cooks in the restaurant, but every Sunday he dresses the large Gaunitai, and one morning he was just tired and he was sort of sleeping in, and they appeared to him in his dream and said, hey, aren't you going to dress us this morning? So, he quickly got up and took bath, and I said, do they speak to you in English or Bangla? He said, Bangla, he spoke to me. So, that's, if it's just lumps of wood, they don't appear in people's dreams, it's, their personalities there who are receiving our worship. The second time he was sent to Adelaide to help out with things, and the previous temple in Semaphore, just near the beach, it was really struggling. There was even debt collectors coming and try to, take something out of the temple to sell, to cover the, they were way behind on the debt, on the rent, etc. Anyway, Rasa Vigraha was dressing Radha Shama Shundra, was the main deities in Adelaide. And, he was practically crying every morning, oh, Radha Shama Shundra, it's so difficult, you have to do something. So like that, for a couple of months he was like that, dressing them every morning. And anyway, he said one night he had a dream and they appeared to him and said, don't worry, we've organised everything. Don't worry, just serve us nicely. Anyway, a couple of days later, Dasa, who was the temple president, he got a call from a real estate agent and said, oh, I hear you're looking for a new temple, and there's a monastery that's for sale, you might want to have a look. Anyway, one thing another, a month later, they'd moved into this new temple, and, it solved so many different problems. So when your heart's pure, Krishna is very happy to appear, but you have to have that qualification, for that. It's not a whimsical thing. People say, well, if God really wants me to worship him, he should appear before me and tell me, like that. But even, how do they know? Krishna could be standing before them, but, how would they recognise? You have some sort of knowledge. It's interesting, I did hear a story last year. Devotees were at Kingscliff at the park, and they were having kirtan, and this sort of hippie type guy just come down and sat with them, and just listening to them. And the devotees had the songbook. It got Narada Muni on the cover, and he saw that, and he asked the devotee, he said, "Oh, does he live around here somewhere?" And the devotee said, "How do you tell somebody brand new about Narada Muni, eternal spaceman, etc.? How do you do that?" And he said, "Oh no, he's just one of our previous saints." He said, "Oh, he was just over there listening to you." And the devotee said, "Well, yeah, he was dressed like in the photo, and he had that, that Indian guitar thing, and he was just smiling and clapping his hands." So, Narada Muni can appear anywhere, even to a hippie. So, but generally that's not the case. Generally, if a transcendental personality is going to appear, it's one has to be qualified. So we'll end there. Thank you very much. Maybe this clock's a little bit slow. They always ring a couple of minutes before 8:30. Anyway, any questions? Okay, yes. Hearing Bhagavatam. in Brihad Bhagavatam Rita, Gopal Kumar, he's chanting the mantra the Guru gave him, and he was doing it for so long, on the instruction of his Guru. And after some time, he got direct darshan of his Guru. He says, "You've been chanting in my order for so long, now you should chant out of love." And he said, "How do I do that?" And his Guru said, "Listening to Bhagavatam." So, any last, yes, for the last question.
I've always wondered, Manibandha Gopal, that Krishna's army being forced essentially to fight against the Lord when Krishna offered his army for himself. I don't know if you have any background story on it.
Well, it's the Kshatriya spirit. I listened to a class by Prabhupada the other day, and said the Kshatriya spirit, that if it's your duty as the father to kill his son, that's what you have to do. That's what Kshatriya means. So if the father and son is on opposing sides, it's your Kshatriya spirit to fight. So that's, it's not just his army, it's also like Bhima and Bhishma, opposing side. There's the story there that he was obliged, because he was maintained, etc. But he could have said, I'm Krishna's bhakta, I'm going to fight on his side. But the duty was there, and that's the Kshatriya spirit. So that's what comes to mind to that understanding, But I guess, it's Krishna's army, they do what their commander-in-chief tells them. So, all right, thank you very much. Prabhu Tam Ki Jai.